Hello, my name is Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net and welcome to this new version of the most popular video on the YouTube channel. So I think it was called How to Improvise on the Basic 251 for Beginner for Jazz Guitar, or Learning 3 Basic Chord Scale Sounds for Jazz Guitar. So anyways, we'll get started. The sound in this video is way better than the old one. You'll see examples here. Please follow through with the PDF. The PDF has timestamps for the old video, so you will have to ignore them, but everything I will be playing here is notated in the PDF, which you can find in the description, of course. So let's get started. So in this video, I'd like to discuss learning the 3 most basic chords sound, or even we can say their scales, or their arpeggios. It's all the same information for jazz guitar beginners. So here's my main advice, and I've been having the same advice for years now. The old video is 5 years old, right? If you learn major 7th, minor 7th, and dominant 7th sound qualities on your instruments, you will have covered a lot of territory as far as learning your instrument and learning the music. Because if you take the most basic chord progression in jazz, it's a 2-5-1, right? Of course, the 2-5-1 progression is discussed at length on the jazzguitarlessons.net website. I encourage you to look at the no-nonsense guide to jazz harmony or jazz guitar harmony. So let's see, we're in C major, right? So the key is C. So in C major, the 2 is minor 7, so D minor 7. The 5 is dominant 7, so G7. And the 1 is major 7th. All right. So what we'll be doing in this video today is still all in C major for jazz guitarists, beginners, intermediates, or people that want to get into jazz. Here's what I recommend. You learn 3 things for each chord quality. Really simple. First, you learn a few good chord voicings. So you learn to play, you learn to play D minor 7 like this or like this or like that. Then you learn a few arpeggios, and then you learn to play a few scales. Of course, when I talk about arpeggio, I mean the simplest 1, 3, 5, 7 basic arpeggio. Then the scale is, of course, a 7-note scale. If you've taken jazz lessons elsewhere, you might have heard all play mode, so the mode of D Dorian over D minor 7 and stuff. So we'll use the key of C once again throughout this video to demonstrate, and I'll just give you a few examples, then you go on your own and you discover materials to do that. So what I'm saying, you practice the arpeggio and the scale, then you say, hey, now we're playing a 2-5-1, how can I improvise with this? You just use the material and rehash it. So of course, if you learn your instrument, learning minor 7, dominant 7, and major 7 chord sounds, arpeggios, chords, and scales, it's a really great place to start. All right, so let's get started with playing stuff. Here's a few basic D minor 7 sound that you might like to play, that I personally like to play. Bar here, so D minor 7 like this. You can find this in the PDF, first line, 10th fret, which is no root, just 10, 10, 10, 10. And there's another that's fairly popular, it's this one if you want to use this. So this one is F, C, D, A. Of course, memorize these 3 shapes, D minor 7, D minor 7, D minor 7. As far as arpeggios go, here's what I recommend. Personally, is you start here with your pinky on the D note. Why pinky? People go like, I want to play it with my index. This is a good fingering, you'll see why later on. So pinky, and you go like this. That's a D minor arpeggio. So D, F, A, C, A, F, D. So if you want to play higher on the fretboard, you can see that still on the first line of the PDF. So you go like this. There are several ways to, different fingerings to get there, but you're always back on D, D, D again, and back. So that's it for D minor. So we have a voicing and we have an arpeggio. Now let's look at G7, so our 5 chord, we covered D minor 7, let's go to G7, second line of the PDF, so we have 3 really easy chord voicings, very cool, very usable. So G7, as a bard, like a cowboy, G7. You probably already know this one. This one, that is 9, 10, 10, 10, which is very close to our D minor 7, so, right? This one, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5, so there's a 9th on it, all right? So that's for the G7, this one, and this one. Now, as far as the arpeggios go, you have to go through the exact same process. So G, B, D, F. That's an easy one. And in the PDF, you also see this one. There's ways to go higher up on the fretboard, but remember the main idea is to always contain the four notes G, B, D, and F. G, B, D, and F. G, B, D, and F. So wherever you can find it on your fretboard is good to use for G7. Now after we've covered D minor 7 and G7, we get to our C voicing, which is our 1. So 2, 5, 1. And here's 3 really nice voicings for C major 7. First one, the PDF, so that's bottom of page 1, the PDF, C major 7. And then we have another one which is the same voicing, that is an octave higher. So 10, 12, 12, 12. This is related to our 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, and 1, really close by. And lastly, there's a last one that will be a treat. In the PDF, it's 2, 2, 4, 3, 3. So you need to bar the 3, 3 like this. Cool? So to recap, the 3 voicings are C major. So this one with optional top string bar, this one an octave higher, and like this. Now let's talk about arpeggio. So same process, you do 1, 3, 5, 7. So you can see all of this in the PDF. And now you might want to go higher and change your fingering to go higher up. So you go. See, I kind of modified my fingering on the way down here. You feel free to, instead of doing C, E, you can do C, E. Alright, so that's basically it for learning the shape. So I just want to recap what we've done so far. We have a few voicings for D minor 7, arpeggio. We didn't touch scales yet. Few voicings for G7 and arpeggio, and a few voicings for C major 7 and arpeggio. Now, if you're able to plug in the right scales over the right chord during improvisation, that's basically, you have it now. You have what you need to improvise on a 2-5-1 for beginners. And lastly, the last step we talked about in the beginning of this video is scales. I wanted to show you scales here, but I didn't want to do it in a rush because I find that often too many jazz guitar instructors, they just give you a bunch of scales and modes, like go ahead, improvise. I'm like, no. Start with the voicings. Or you have arpeggios, and the arpeggio is very useful in improvisation because it only contains the good note of the chord. So you think vertically, think swing era, Charlie Christian and stuff like that. If the chord is sounded on a C major 7 and you just improvise with, it sounds good. So you can put little scale lines and add rhythms in between to go like. See, so I just played a little arpeggio and added a scale in between, and then added maybe a little chromatic system and added rhythms to it. Because you could play a 2-5-1 in C major and basically just use the C major scale, which you might already know. You can play like this, right? Or you can play it in a position. I like to play it on one string, so start here and just keep playing it on the same string, right? It doesn't matter which fingerings you do this, it matters that you learn the scales to use over the 3 different chords, all right? The biggest issues I've seen in students is learn the C major scale and just say, I'm going to improvise in C major, just stick to C major. And they always start on the C note. They go like, it's not going to work because you still have to learn the C major scale starting from the D root, so D Dorian. So it goes like D, E, F, A, D, E, F, G, A, C, B, C. So this is what we're calling the Dorian mode. But it's still just the notes of the C major scale, I know. But the fact is, if you simplify things too much, you will not really make good lines. It won't really sound like you know what you're doing when you're improvising. So I don't want to show you any new fingering. So here's the drill. C major scale here, exactly as it's written in the PDF. Now move up and start from D and play the same notes. All right? And then do the same thing and start from the G note. That's basically playing the C major scale now, starting from 3 different notes. You know, by covering that right now, you cover most of the stuff that you might have mistaken by just playing in C major. I know you're still playing the same 7 notes, but it would sound better when you're playing this over a cadence. Of course, that's not the end of it, all of which we've covered in these videos. My point was you can use the scale, the arpeggio, and the chord voicings during your improvisation. And this is a good chunk of materials, right? This was the most popular video in the past 5 years on the JazzGuitarLessons.net YouTube channel. But you do this when you grab a different key, say. So now we're in C major, and you're like, oh, this is all easy stuff. I can do this in a week. But what if you want to play in F major? What if you wanted to play in E flat major? What if, you know, so you already have a lot of work to do as far as learning these sounds and making them applicable. But remember, the advice is learn a few good voicings, learn the arpeggio, learn the scale, then you're good to go. One thing I would recommend as far as, you know, what I've seen in my teaching is if you do this in 1 key per week. So now this week you stay in C major, and next week you go to F and you go through the cycle like this. In about 12 weeks, you will have covered the 12 keys. So you will have covered all of this in all the available keys. That's a lot of stuff. So by doing so, like in a few months or 3 months, you're going to learn to play the 2-5-1s in very many keys. And why do I recommend this is because when you play songs, you won't always play your songs in the key of C major or E or whatever is available to you. You can use your play along. You can use, now we have iReal Pro to change the keys, have a backing track to play for you, or you can put on an Aebersoul CD. Sooner or later, you're going to realize that you're going to play jazz standards, and every chord progression you see coming your way is one of these good old 2-5-1s, right? So that's why I've insisted so much on this throughout the years. All right, so I'll leave it at that for today. I hope this was helpful. Of course, subscribe to the channel, JazzGuitarLessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher, and I will leave you with a little improvisation on 2-5-1 in the key of C major. I'll just use my metronome with a little bossa nova rhythm. All right, have fun, and I'll see you in the next video. 1, 2, 3, 4.